Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Craft Brewed Sports Cincinnati Style. I am Mike. With me as always is Scott. Joe hanging out behind the computer. Joe, how you doing tonight, man?
What it do, baby?
Never gets old. Never gets old.
I never see it coming.
That's
the funny part.
He
does it every weekend. I laugh. Like, he got me again.
Well, this is Craft Brewed Sports Cincinnati Style. This is a show where we break down all things Cincinnati sports. And I just, just awful. It's so bad that I had to bring in reinforcements to cheer me up this week. So this week, sitting in the Speakeasy, we have comedian Matt Stanton. Matt, how's it going, man?
Things are great.
Good.
I'm very excited. Let's turn this around.
I needed something like, with how awful this has been, I was like, we got to have something in here to just make it better.
I was at a open mic on Monday in Pittsburgh watching the game. I was like, oh, good gravy.
What a terrible place to be.
It was rough.
Well, everybody, this is Craft Brewed Sports Cincinnati Style, and it is brought to you by Minuteman Tickets. Look, everybody, football is back, and there's only one spot you should be heading to get your college football or NFL tickets, and that's Minuteman. We love Minuteman. They're Ohio guys. They're sports fans, and they're not going to screw you over like other ticketing places. Not just football either. They got it all. Baseball, hockey, theater, rib cook-offs. It doesn't matter. Hit them up, MinutemanTickets.com, or give them a call, 614-943-3000. That's 614-943-3000, and avoid all of the fees. Tell them you heard about them right here on Craft Brewed Sports Cincinnati Style. Oh, that was perfect timing.
Did you mean to do that?
Oh, it's like we've done this once or twice.
LaJoya.
Way to call back to a show that nobody's listened to yet.
That's
Don't
the
worry,
point,
man.
to bring it up, to make sure everybody goes and listens to the real
Go
show.
check out the other show
It's
if you
called an
guys.
Easter egg.
Thank you for understanding, Matt.
This week we are going to be talking about the Bengals' awful performance against Pittsburgh.
This is
and
what I get for having faith.
how dead wrong all of us were. We were all feeling really great about that. We're also going to talk Reds season finally comes to an end, what we can look forward to going into next season for the Reds, and FC Cincinnati. 3 losing franchises here in the city of Cincinnati, and that season comes to an end as well. And then at the end of the show, we're going to look ahead at UCF coming into Cincinnati Friday night, tonight, when this show drops. They're going to be here.
After we've been talking about it for 2 weeks.
It's the game to promo, man.
No,
Like
I know.
that's the one you circle on the schedule. Is like, all right, this is the American opener, and it's against UCF. You got to be ready for that. If Fickle doesn't have these dudes ready, I don't know what to say. Like they got to show out in this game. They have to. Anyways, we'll get into that. Let's talk some Bengals talk. Joe, hit the music, I guess. Grumble.
Everybody.
You think they go 0 for 16?
No, because that's too hard. I talked about this week. You're not going to go on 16. It takes a special kind of bad. I don't think they're a special kind of bad, but they're pretty bad.
I've seen teams with Don Hollis and Eric Wilhelm. They're not going 0-16. Those teams won 3 games. That shows you that I was born in 1983. And I know this quarterback.
Well, that's what's tough is last week we went through the schedule. We were feeling good. It was like, all right, no, they're on the road. They're going to play better on the road. It's a night game. We got the curse, but this is the perfect time for them to break free of that and get over that hump against the Steelers, build the statue for Zach Taylor as soon as they do it, and instead they get stomped. We had went through the schedule and we were like, hey, we got like 6 wins that we can probably pull out of this one.
I know. It really went from the optimism of the end of that show where it's like, you know what? Yeah, they can do this. A 6-10 sounds feasible, to the end of the game. It's like, what? I know they're not going to go 0-16, but I mean, they're going to flirt with it, right? Because they ain't winning 6 games, man. Whew.
Brutal.
Well, the problem
man.
I saw was the Steelers' defense is great at sacks, but they're terrible because I've been forced because my lady is from Pittsburgh, so I have to watch a lot of Pittsburgh games. Well, just because, like, I'll be...
My lady.
better believe, just let you all know, people like me. They're bad at, like, third wide receivers and covering tight ends, running backs.
Yeah,
That's what they have.
Right,
Like the
I was gonna
Bengals.
say they had struggled defending the pass through the first few games, where it was just like blown coverages.
Like even the Niners game.
Yeah,
That's how the Niners kept coming back because
Right.
those people, and that's not what the Bengals have.
It's also the offensive line. Like this put it on full display. Everybody knew the Bengals offensive line was garbage, but then to see 8 sacks against Dalton takes 8 sacks. I don't even know how many times he was hurt. The worst was I think it was the 7th sack where it was 3rd and 20 and Dalton gets sacked, and then there's another 5-yard penalty. It ends up being 4th and 34. After that sack on 3rd down, Dalton walked to the sidelines and just threw his helmet, and the face was just like, F it, I'm out. I'm done. I'm done with this. Don't even put me back in.
Well, because after 7 sacks, I mean, jeez, that's like 3 weeks worth of work for most quarterbacks. I mean, 7 in a game.
That's the part I don't get.
And the Steelers were only rushing 4 too.
That's what killed me.
It wasn't like they were sending the house or anything.
What kills me about that is the Bengals fans who complain about Dalton, and it's clearly the offensive line. Like the same guy said, you need to get rid of Dalton and thinks we better.
Right.
The same guys on the west side who say drought beer. Like
Drought.
instead of giraffe. I'm related to people like the quarterback. Like it doesn't matter. If you're on the ground, it doesn't matter. You're not going to do it.
No, they really could have had Joe Montana back there and it wouldn't have mattered because, if nobody in front of them is able to hold anybody up, it's a free-for-all.
They made it through the first couple of weeks of the season with that 3-step drop. Dalton made his money and looked like a legit threat on, I'm going to hit this slant in 3 steps, and that's it. And then the Steelers were in his face. He couldn't even get a 3-step drop-off. That line was awful, man.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, there was no running game again. And maybe that goes back to the fact that the line is so terrible.
Yeah,
but
I think that's the thing. You can never get the running game going because the offensive line is awful, and then you start falling behind, and it's like, well,
Now
we've
you
got to
gotta
abandon.
throw.
I was gonna say we've got to
Right.
abandon the run. So there's never a rhythm established, and so it's just this domino effect of things that just keep happening to where it's you're never gonna see the running game if they're always playing from behind.
Well, you can't have a good running game if the fans don't cheer. Everyone knows that. That's really what is needed. If you clapped harder, I would have 4.9 yards per carry. But no, you don't. So, sorry.
That's straight from Joe Mixon's mouth right there. If Joe Mixon thought the boos were bad in that 49ers game,
Oh, boy.
just wait. You go down at halftime to the Cardinals coming up, don't come out of the tunnel. Don't come out after halftime because it is going to be awful. You're going to hear some terrible, terrible things said your way. Joe pulling up the stats for us here. Mixon was the leading rusher with 62 yards. Is that says 15 carries for 62 yards. So
A lot of that came, though, and again, it was similar to that Bills game where it's like, oh, well, things are starting to churn here when it's kind of, And in the Bills game, at least, they had the chance to kind of make things interesting because the Bills never ran away. But by the time he had any of those runs for all those yards, it was in the 4th quarter when things had gotten away from him.
And what sucked is watching the game, that first half of this game felt very similar to the first half of that Bills game where nothing was happening. But you get in at halftime, it's like they're only down 10-3. This is very easy to come back from.
And not only that, if you just watched the first quarter, the Bengals defense played pretty well, and it was 3-0 at the end of the first quarter. And you're like, all right, well, it's going to be a low-scoring game because neither of them, there was a couple of turnovers by both teams. It was real sloppy, and you're like, all right, they're hanging with them, and that was it. They had kicked that field goal, and they never scored again. And after the first quarter, everything was all downhill. It was awful. You know what else is frustrating when you're watching it? So I don't know how many big play, you can't see when you're watching on TV.
Sorry, Dalton was the second leading rusher on the team with 8 yards.
That's never a good day. Never a good day when your quarterback leads. There's a second leading rusher with only 8. But again, you can't see it on TV. But I'm sitting there watching, watching how things played out, and it's like, well, Mason Rudolph isn't doing anything spectacular. he would stand back there with all the time in the world and dump it off. And the running backs would make one guy miss and turn it into a 15-yard gain.
All that yak, baby.
And it was just like they were getting, pecked to death by ducks. It wasn't anything like huge. There was the one blown coverage where, he threw it downfield. And it's like, but it was one of those where you're like, oh, clearly somebody missed an assignment because nobody is ever that wide open in the NFL unless somebody blows an assignment. And, where Johnson caught the touchdown. Other than that, though, I mean, the Steelers were running the Wildcat. And to me, when somebody's running the Wildcat in 2019, you're like, well, this team doesn't really have much of an offense because they're using gimmick stuff.
And the Steelers.
And it was
right to do that.
Right. And it was working. So you're just like, okay, this just is what it is when they're running that type of stuff on you. And it's effective.
That's the worst part is it was working. I'm
Yeah.
like, this college offense is working against the Bengals, and the defense is supposed to be the good point of this team.
Right.
Like the defense is supposed to be, all right, well, we can hang. But I guess when you're on the field the entire game, you get a little worn out.
Well, and that's kind of where it's just like you're getting gas because you're on the field with another first down off a 15-yard gain, another first down off a 10-yard gain. It's just like, all right, we're going to, we got to back it up. And it just constant, nonstop, that wears your defense out. And you through 4 games, there's been a lot of that.
What's amazing to me too is the Pittsburgh rushing attack, for as well as it seemed to do, they only racked up 66 yards of rushing. So that's that goes to what the league is now, where it's a pass first league anyways.
Right.
But, so if you would have told me they're going to hold them to 66 yards rushing, I'd be like, great, be in a good spot in this game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that's been surprised me, like how the Steelers don't have a run game. Like I was like, I actually thought they were going to get healthy in that fashion. Like, oh, James Conner's going to have 190
That's exactly
yards.
what I said. Yep.
Like 17-13, but they wear them down. Like that's what I was thinking was going to happen. And yeah.
No, instead, Mason Rudolph looks like the next coming of Jesus and just goes crazy. 24 of 28 is what he was in that game.
But again, man, it's easy when you're doing a bunch of check downs.
And that's
fine.
But
if it's working, then
Exactly.
Mark
Brunell.
there's nothing to
That's
say.
what he is. Mark Brunell's way to the record book. 17 straight completions for 31 yards.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph goes 24 for 28 and
224
only gets
yards.
229 yards. So that is kind of a telling stat right there. But he averaged 8 yards a throw, and again, a lot of that on that yak. But man, I just I don't know. Like my faith is completely gone in this team after that. Which is sad because this was the game that we pointed to as like the turning point, because if they could win this one, it's like everybody's on board. Like, okay, they beat the Steelers in prime time on the road.
You're right.
They
could have righted a lot of demons, but no.
And I think you had mentioned it before in previous episodes. We're just going to be stuck with this random up and down. They look decent one week.
Right.
They look terrible the next week.
And I mean, it's literally this game was another thing where you're like, they had a great quarter in the first, and then they had 3 quarters of bad football. You're just going to be looking at it like, well, they had a good series. They had a good set of plays. I
can't even think of a series that looked good, though, in that game. That's the worst part. There is
I was
nothing
gonna say,
that I can hang my hat on.
Yeah,
for that
offensively, they just struggled all the way through.
What if they beat the Cardinals? Like, would that change your opinion, or it's
No.
like, oh, it's one more week?
I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think so is because the Cardinals are also a terrible team too. So it's
they're bad. They're bad, and the Bengals are at home. So yeah, I don't think it would change perception. It would just be more, okay.
We
like
got
you
it right.
you got the win,
one,
so
right.
you can just put
But
that up.
And I know
we're not going to
the
go on
Steelers-
16.
I know the Steelers aren't great this year either, and they're going to end up being third place in the division. But it's still the Steelers. So like,
Yeah.
if you win that one, you feel high. If you beat the Cardinals, it's like, yeah, but they got Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. He's supposed to be playing with the A's right now in the playoffs. He's not even supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? This is
not even
stupid.
supposed to be here.
So, but here's the thing. This is the game that they could win. Now, we said that last week.
Right.
Which is what's
I still
terrifying.
maintain where it's like, this is a game they could win, but it was more of last week. This is a game they could win. And instead this is a game they could win.
I'll even go one step further. This is a game they should win. They
Yeah,
should
I really
beat
Yeah,
do
the
yeah.
think they
Cardinals.
should at home against a rookie QB, a rookie head coach, and they're the Cardinals personnel otherwise isn't all that spectacular. So yeah, they match up. It's a 3-point spread. I mean,
The Bengals
typical-
are favored. Is this the first time they're favored this season?
Probably is. I'd have to.
I think
look,
so,
Because,
right?
Yeah, I don't think they were favored.
I
in
think
any of
they've
their
been the
matchups.
dogs in every single game they've played this year.
Yeah.
All 4 of them. But a quarter of the season they've been underdogs.
Right.
But yeah, they are favorites in this game. ESPN, their football power index is predicting that the Bengals should win this game. They're at 56.2% likelihood of winning. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of confidence for a home
Right.
team.
Well, I would say it's a lot of confidence for a team that's looked at this bad. Like that's the thing. Like in 2 games, they just got utterly embarrassed.
Well, and here's what's terrifying too about this. I'm pretty sure John Ross. I think it was announced today.
The
John Ross is
IR.
out. Yeah.
IR,
Oh, he
yeah.
knows.
So he's out.
Well, but
AJ
was
Green's
it
out.
IR comeback. It wasn't like season-ending IR.
Well,
Right?
No,
I
it's
think
not
at this
season
point
ending,
you can
but-
come back maybe 10 or
Yeah, I was
week
gonna say
10
it's
or
like
12.
I was just gonna say I think it's a 6 or 8 week thing. Like if they designated him to be able to return.
Dude, just sit out.
Well,
I think AJ's
yeah.
gonna start doing that too. Did you see
8
AJ on the
weeks.
sideline where AJ was he became a meme, like how disappointed he was in this offense, and the whole time I saw it, I was like, AJ's not coming back this year.
Oh, no.
He's gonna nurse
He
this
looked
injury.
like the real life SpongeBob. All right, I'm gonna head out. like he's just like I am in no rush to come back from this injury. Like no thanks.
Not that it really matters. Dalton can't get the ball to him anyway, so it's like if
Yeah.
you think about it, AJ Green is your deep threat. You don't have time to throw deep anyways. So
what's the point?
yeah. So
Well, I mean, I do think though, talent is what they're just completely lacking. So I mean, it's just like
Sure.
it would help.
it would definitely help.
Like
but
you don't want to say, well, there's no point to having him, but yeah, he's not going to be the magical elixir. Like they're not going to look like a completely different team with him on the field.
Do the Bengals trade AJ Green?
That's what I was just about to talk. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've seen those rumors this week, because they're saying he's still got another 3 or 4 weeks before he's healthy, but that'd be right at the trading deadline.
So I would say, yes, the Bengals should trade AJ Green,
but no,
but
they won't.
do it because Mike Brown is a terrible
Oh,
owner
yeah,
and doesn't
that's-
care. Like,
That's a
Right.
given.
he's gonna run this franchise into the ground further than he already has. But the smart thing would be to trade AJ. Like that. At this
It
point,
would be.
fire sale. I'd open up who you want.
What do you
Like-
what do you think? Green Bay, Seattle.
Everybody wants him to go to Green Bay. I think Green Bay wants him to go. to
which
Green
is a
Bay.
really weird thing because they don't have a problem with their wideouts
Yeah,
in Green Bay.
I
Like
feel like Seattle's more.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Where if you're the Bengals, you don't care
Well,
who
that's
he
what-
goes to
when
as
he-
long as whatever
yeah,
you're
just
like the
get a
picks.
decent return.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
you're looking, but for Green Bay, it doesn't seem to make sense because their struggles are their defense.
Those were the people that were like when the video of AJ Green looking so distraught on the sidelines and just eyed him out of here. All of the Green Bay fans were chiming in that were like, can't wait till Aaron Rodgers is throwing him the ball. He's just looking forward to his time in Green Bay. Like Green Bay fans want him. So maybe there's an appetite there. That
I mean, there should be
I
no
don't follow
lack-
Green Bay, so I don't know what they're doing
Yeah,
this
I
year.
mean, there
have
would
no
be
clue.
there should be no lack of fan bases that would want him though. I mean,
Well, that's the
like
thing.
if you're
You'd be crazy to turn down AJ. It's
Right.
just a matter of what you're willing to give up for him.
right because him coming off the injury and he's getting up there in age. He's not like he's still got a few more decent years left in him, but you're not going to give up a super haul for AJ
Right.
Green.
But can you imagine
anymore.
AJ Green is your number 2? God, I
That
would
wouldn't
love to have
happen.
that
I
problem.
still think he's
No,
better
but, like,
than,
if
no
he-
matter where he.
Well, but
Well,
but
pardon
like
me,
if he
3
comes
people
to,
are ahead of him.
but if he goes to a team where like he isn't the number 1 receiver on the team, like let's say he goes to Green Bay where they don't have a problem, it's like AJ Green's your number 2. You assholes.
And you know who's going to swoop in, though? Don't count out Bill Belichick and the Patriots.
Oh God.
Yeah, well, you can.
Well,
never,
but they won't
you
give up
never
anything
can.
for him.
Yeah, that's the thing. They could. Well, Mike Brown might be that terrible though.
That's true.
Maybe
Mike Brown would
that's
be like,
stupid to get swindled.
Mike Brown would be like, "You want a 6th round for AJ? Yeah, that's cool. That sounds good."
That seems equivalent.
Or Bill would do what he did with Antonio and be like, hey, just call him a cracker. Just call Mike Brown a cracker. I'll have you here in a week. We'll just sign you off free agency. It's cool. Don't worry about it. It worked for Antonio.
Let's make our official predictions in this Bengals Cardinals game. Do you think the Bengals get the W?
God, last week I thought that they would beat the Steelers by 6. I had them a 6-point advantage in that one. And I don't see it this week. I actually think that Arizona does well, as bad as their personnel is. What they do well at is what the Bengals cannot defend well, which is on the outside. They've got speed on the outside, and that's a problem. And then like looking at it when you're just like, oh well, even if they just dump the ball down, they got David Johnson that does that very well. In fact, I'd argue that David Johnson's a better running back than anybody on the Pittsburgh running back core at this point, better than Connor. So, if Kyler Murray can just sit back there and do that, and there's the threat of Kyler Murray running, which you didn't have to worry about with Rudolph, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's a 24-17 Cardinals victory.
Matt, what do you think about this one?
Well, I heard some guy in Craft Brew Sports pick Cardinals +3, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going because I believe Kingsbury doesn't know how to close a game.
That's a good point.
I think there will be something dumb in the fourth quarter, and I'm going like a awkward number, like 22-18. Because just a nonsense.
22-18 who?
Bengals. I think it'll be a ridiculous, like something where you're like, what the heck happened in this game? And like, yeah, I think some stupid decision will happen.
I could see that where it's like 8-6 final. What?
See, Matt, you should have hedged that a little bit, and you should have said it's a 21-18 win for the Bengals, because then you still get your pick correct because it's a 3.5-point line.
I don't know that other guy. I don't know what he's doing.
Different guy, different show.
Yeah. He's Matthew. That's what.
I don't have any faith anymore. I feel like I'm just gonna go into I'm going into tank mode at this point, where I'm just like, no, they're going to lose every game. Screw it. So that way I'm at least pleasantly surprised when they do pull one out. But I feel like this has all the makings of like the Kyler Murray breakout show, where all of a sudden people are like, this is why he was the number 1 pick. Did you see what he did against Cincinnati? And they're like, yeah, but it's Cincinnati. And Arizona fans will be like, we don't care. He just threw for 800 yards and ran for 200 more. And then we have to deal with being the highlight reel for Kyler Murray for the rest of his career. Like, that's the
like
game.
the Brett Favre game.
Yes.
In 92, you just see him throwing the pass in the fourth quarter. You're like, oh gosh.
I'm so tired of my team being
this will be his
highlight reel.
The coming out party. This is the Kyler Murray we saw at Oklahoma.
Exactly. He's gonna get to do the interview afterwards where he's like, this is why I left baseball. This is why I did it. And
I knew I'd be in Ohio. Make my life.
Shout out to the A's this week, but this is why I made my choice right here.
Yeah, I don't feel good about it all. I think it's one of those, especially we talked about it, there's so much pressure at home. The fans are going to be ravenous. Unleashing the boo birds as soon as something doesn't go right on the first series, and who knows how that affects their mental game.
Question. Over under on Jake Plummer jerseys in the crowd this weekend.
Well, what's the line? What are you putting it at? You can't just say over under.
I'm asking
nothing.
you, what's the line? Like, I would say 1.5.
There'll be 4. I'm going 4.
You're going 4.
So you're taking the over.
I think every cutaway after Arizona does something good, it'll be Jake Plummer jerseys. So however many cutaways that is. That's how many Jake Plummer jerseys you're going to see.
But I mean, it could just be the one guy. They're just going to keep showing.
Yeah, maybe. But you're only going to see Jake Plummer jerseys.
I'm going Larry Centers.
Somebody's going to skew this and be like, is that a Jake Plummer Broncos jersey? Oh, come on, man. Come on.
Well, we don't have any faith in this team this week, which maybe that'll bode well for him. Who knows?
I mean, I still think like they're pretty evenly matched squads. I got a touchdown victory, but it's like this is a winnable game for them. I still maintain that they could and should win this. It just
like last week.
I was gonna say last week just felt like such a slap to the face. Where it was like, no, this is why you don't have faith. I'm like, okay, sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
My bad.
Exactly, and all Bengals fans feel the same way. Let's talk a little Reds baseball now that that's over. Painfully putting a bullet to the brain of that season, taking them out back and shutting them down. Joe, let's hear that call. Or not. And this one did belong to the Reds. Closed out the season with a W over the Pirates. Actually won the series as well against the Pirates. So congrats, I guess. It's one of those things where it's like, all right, finally we've reached the end of the season. We're getting into now it's time to start talking off-season baseball. And I love talking off-season baseball, especially when it comes to the Reds, because last year they did make all of the news in the offseason. Like, they were the team everybody talked about, making the crazy moves, getting Puig in, getting Kemp in, getting rid of Homer Bailey. What's the team do from here? They're slightly below 500 to end the season. A lot of one-loss games. They've got a decent rotation going into next year. Do you think they make crazy moves to try to make a push, or do you think it's time to fire sale and go full rebuild?
I would do that again because I thought they did the wise decision last year where they do all the moves, but then kind of hedge your bet where it's like, okay, trade deadline, let's bounce.
Yeah.
I would do that again, except for you hope more for that 89 to 90 win progression because what they had 9 games this season, 9 more wins.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, in that ballpark. If you do that again, that's wild card territory,
right?
As long as there's not garbage teams like where win totals are really high. I would do that again.
I just think it's all about the start. I mean, they just came out so
1-10 to start the first 10
I mean,
games of
they
the
struggled
season.
so badly out of the gate. Had they played just 500 baseball, they would have been in contention for that at the end of the season for that second wild card spot.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not talking about like monumental changes. I just think I don't know what's the ultimate game plan because they blew it up and said, all right, well, we're just going to try throwing all these guys in here and seeing how things work. But you got to have more of a strategy. Like, okay, so the rotation is kind of set. They've got the rotation that looks, on paper, you're like, all right, that's a very formidable rotation. It's at least one of the top 10 in the National League, which is, good enough. It's kind of figuring out the offense, though, because if Joey Votto's just going to sit there and get you, if Votto's going to have the last 2 seasons that he's had, then, I mean, you're dead in the water. We talked about it last week. It's Suarez and dudes.
Yeah.
And you cannot win if
but
you just got
what's crazy
one
about
offensive piece.
What's crazy about that is going into this season, everybody was like, "Ugh, this Reds rotation, I don't know. They look suspect at best." But that lineup,
offense should
man,
be fun.
that lineup, they're going to be balling out. And then
Oh.
it's like, what happened to this lineup? Nobody performed. So I think that could be the worst thing that could happen to the Reds is the management and the upper management looks at it and goes, well, if they just are the guys that they're supposed to be, we'll be in good shape. And then they have another season just like they had where you're just below 500, miring in mediocrity, and you're wasting time with a decent rotation.
Yeah, I'd go. It reminds me of remember when they were trying to Austin Kearns for like the longest time?
Yeah.
Like that
They were really
group
trying
of
to-
guys.
yeah.
Austin
like,
Kearns isn't going to happen.
Stop
Quit trying
trying
to make Austin Kearns happen. Yeah. No, and I feel like they've
That's
had
Mean
that.
Girls reference. Good
Right.
work.
With that's how their outfield is.
Hedge.
That's how their outfit has been the last couple of years where it's like, all right, well, we're going to force these few dudes because they had good second half stats or they had this thing going for them, and then they like, all right, Duvall, you're out. But we've got this other guy, and it's like, he's very similar to Duvall. Well, okay, we're going to try him for long. Like, settle on some guys, but make sure they're not just one-trick ponies. Like, I felt like that's what they've done with some of their positions where it's like, all right, well, this guy is really good at this, but he sucks at every other thing.
Yeah.
Billy
So you've got a
Hamilton's
bunch of-
fast. We're going to start
Right,
him 162
I know, it's-
games.
Duvall can hit a bunch of home runs, but he can't hit for average and he sucks at defense.
I'm such a Cincinnati fan because I go like, oh, I like those guys. But
I
it's
know,
like, they're
right?
not good enough.
Yeah. We've got a team full of one-tool guys.
It's the Cincinnati fan curse. We fall in love with the
Yeah.
player, and then we're so disappointed when they leave. Like, when Puig got traded, Puig was only here for a half a season, but I was like, this dude needs to go in the Hall of Fame. He is a Reds Hall of Famer.
When Puig sent out his post earlier this weekend about thank you, Cleveland, you guys were awesome, basically saying he's not coming back.
Yeah.
Every single comment in that was, come back to your home, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
We love you.
Yeah.
Come back home to Cincinnati.
Dude, everybody would lose their mind if Puig signed with the Reds this offseason.
Which
lose
is so
their mind.
weird because
And-
he was just
right.
average.
I mean, he's second on the team in home runs. Still. he's better than everybody else in the lineup.
Cleveland Indian is your second leading home run hitter.
But then when you look at the outfield, like where I think the Reds are really struggling and why I don't think you're going to see any crazy moves is you have so many young guys in the outfield that they are really banking on. You've got Winker, you've got Van Meter, you've got Senzel, you've got Schebler who's still out there. Schebler is maybe the piece that they try to move, but you still have Phillip Ervin, you still have Aquino. Like, who do you get rid of? Because the Reds are like, these are our young core.
Okay, here's
who do you get rid of?
My confusion with one of those names in there. Senzel was drafted as a third baseman. He played most of the minor leagues at third base, and then there was the talk, all right, well, we've got to move him to second. All of a sudden, he ends up in center. And he's just done okay, but I think part of his problem has been that they've just been moving around too much, and he can't find a home, so he can't focus on hitting, which is what he was drafted to be.
Yeah.
Like, that was his strong thing as a third baseman, and he was a really good hitter. But he's kind of lost his way because they're moving around so much that he's just become, well, this average guy, a whatever guy. He's a replacement level guy. Like, figure out what you're going to do with these guys, but make sure that you, like, lock in on it. Don't keep moving guys around and trying
And that's
all
fair.
that.
I think Senzel is, they're saying this is your home in the outfield, but it's a very crowded outfield with these young guys. So I guess
That's why I don't
being,
understand why they decided his home was going to be the outfield. I understand
because
why
it wasn't
going to
be third base. You're not going to.
No, well, that's fine. Suarez moved off, but then they were like, "Well, you're blocked by Scooter Gennett," which was always to me another one of those moves where it was just like, you guys fell in love with Scooter Gennett. Why? Like, he should have
one
been
season, baby. That's all
right,
it takes.
Exactly. He should have been at second base.
It wasn't even a season. It was one game.
No,
where he
it
hit
was
4 home runs
But
or
did you
whatever
see
in
that
that one
game?
game.
It was a great game. It was a great game,
Yeah,
Joe.
he hit like 4 home runs, and then everybody's like, Scooter Jenett's the greatest baseball player ever.
Put him in the Hall of Fame.
Well, maybe it's the macro decision. When you keep going, why do you put people in these positions? It's like, well, maybe you should have the people making bringing up the ideas, like replacing that. Because, I mean, we poked fun about the Rays. We're like, the Rays, whatever. But their playoff team, it's because of the macro idea, not the players. It's the people selecting the players. And that's one thing Cincinnati never thinks about, ever, in anything.
I was going to say no sport. no
thing.
sport looks that far ahead. They're just like, this guy, this one guy, we're going to focus right
I was
here.
just going to say, they do just draft guys with no plan. They're like, he can play baseball. We'll figure out where to put
In
him
the
later.
2000s, they thought a right fielder, they got 9 of them, was going to get you a title. Like, Adam Dunn, Austin Kern, let's bring him in.
Jay Bruce.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
How do we get to 500 this year?
We just need a guy who has OF next to his name. We'll put him at one of the spots. Doesn't matter which. They're interchangeable. This is fantasy baseball, right? He just needs to slot into the outfield.
Michael Lorenzen's a decent pitcher. Put that OF on him.
He's got dual eligibility, man. There's so much versatility.
I'm laughing, but I'm so sad inside. It's so disappointing because I don't know I don't know where they go from here. So this offseason is going to be something to see. Because this is where you have to make your decision. Do you go full rebuild, sell off what you got and start from scratch, or do you try to get rid of some of these young guys and get some big names in there, some big pieces? And I just don't know. I don't know which direction to even take this. Because I don't feel like that's the right path because you're a barely 500, not even a 500 team this year. Is that going to be what puts you over the hump and competing with the Dodgers in the NL? No.
Well, yeah, but again, it's not about competing with the Dodgers. This is about
It's all about competing with the Dodgers.
No, it's just about the division.
It's
like
1970s.
like we're sitting here
Steve
talking,
Garvey, we need to stop him.
we're sitting here talking about what they need to do to be, in the second wild card discussion. So you're not worried about the
No, but
Dodgers.
that's the thing. If you're going to make this move, if you're going to sacrifice a rebuild and you're going to say, we're going to bring in people, you better be going for the World Series.
Well, if you're going to do that,
if you're going to sacrifice to be like, hopefully we get the second wild card, then get the hell out. Like, that's crazy to me.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
going to be the
But you know what, though? That's the way that it's the unintended consequence of expanding the playoffs was that there are teams who are like, hey, man, we can call ourselves a playoff team. All we got to do is be that second wild card team.
Right.
And that's what some of these teams are shooting for. They're like, hey, just got to get there.
Give me a shot. Just
Yeah.
give me a shot.
And then anything can happen, but in reality, it's like, no, not anything can
The
happen.
race to 87. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what it is.
Yeah, it is. It's like there's so many teams. It's like why we see now at the trade deadline where there's all these teams that are like, I don't know, we're going to hold. Like, there used to be so many more that knew at the trade deadline, you got to get out because there's no point. You can't do it. Now they're like, well, we could go on a run. And then it's like I get 86 wins.
The Giants did that this year. They're like, maybe because they won. They had like 11 out of 13 stretch. And
Yeah.
then they finished.
That was hilarious for the Giants, where it was like, yeah, they're going to be clear sellers. Bumgarner's gone. They got to get rid of all these guys. Then they got hot just before the trading deadline. I was like, crap, what do we do? We're in no man's land.
All right. Well, we'll see what the Reds do. That's like I said, off-season baseball is some of my favorite baseball because all that hot stove talk is just the greatest. And this is where we really see.
I feel like it used to be. Now it's just, hey, it's March and nobody's signed yet. Are anybody going to sign? Anybody going to do anything? No? Okay, cool. Halfway through the season, guys are getting
play this
signed.
year?
Yeah. Spring training's almost over. Our two biggest name free agents in the sport are still left available.
Working out in Key West. And just like, ugh, I got this.
And they do, except they don't. Neither one of those two big names did anything.
Did not end well for those franchises. So maybe the Reds are better
okay
off
with
not
that.
getting into that. Yeah.
I'm totally cool with that. Let's talk a little. Can we talk a little FC Cincinnati before we get into this UC football?
Sure.
It'll be brief, I promise. Not much. Not much.
I was not promised soccer talk.
There's not much really to say about FC Cincinnati as we close out the season. The nice thing in my book is that the FC Cincinnati team did keep Orlando out of the playoffs with that 1-1 draw. So I love that. Shout out Scout Team Radio. You guys couldn't get in. After the 5-0 drubbing that they put on FC Cincinnati earlier in the season, it comes out to a 1-1 tie, which I also got really pissed off about because I don't know if you watched the game. FC Cincinnati had a 1-0 lead through most of that. And then Orlando scores in the first minute of stoppage time at the end of the game to tie it up.
That's the worst.
Like, of course they do. Of course. And then I was just waiting for him. I was like, they're going to bury another one. Here we go. It's over. They're going to take this win and really screw up my offseason. But what I wanted to mention was you got FC Cincinnati, who losing club, obviously inaugural season. They get some slack cut for them. Reds, losing club. Who knows which direction they go. Bengals, going to be a losing club, all with first-year head coaches, and the difference in fans and like how people treat these franchises is crazy to me.
To be fair, FC's had first-year head coaches multiple times this season.
That's right. Their second first-year head coach.
They're on their fourth first-year head coach.
Third. It's the third.
Oh, sorry, I lost track.
I mean, I guess it was.
They didn't have an interim.
It was Allen's first year in the MLS, and then the interim's coach first year in the MLS,
Right.
and now Jan's first year. So, okay, 3 first-year head coaches in the MLS.
That's got to be like an MLS record, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Is Cincinnati also the first major city to have 3 teams with a first-year head coach? Like, that's got to be...
That'd be something that you'd have to Google, but I can't imagine it's happened too many times.
Because there's not that many
sports.
cities that have 3 professional teams. Like, if you think about cities that have 3 professional teams, there's not that many to put in there.
Well, there's more that have 4 than have 3. If you're thinking about it,
Sure, but even that, I'd say 3 or 4. You don't have that many cities.
Right? Yeah, there's never.
It's
gonna
like
be that
big
many.
markets and like Cleveland.
That'd be one of those things that'd be tough to research. You'd have to look at a lot of
Joe?
different things.
I'm going to go out and say it is the first time that any city has had 3 first-time head coaches in their professional sports.
Well, technically they had 5. So let's not short. We're just talking about one franchise.
So as we look forward to next year with FC Cincinnati, I feel like this is another team that you just got to gut it and go, like, get rid of some of these contracts. Adi needs to go.
But they're an expansion team, so I mean,
I know, but
but I'm
now
just saying, like, I honestly don't know what anybody really expected.
You build a team based on one coach who is 3 coaches removed. Like, you got to start fresh, right? You got to get all new guys in there to meet.
Expansion, take 2.
It's essentially what we can look forward to next year. UC football time. I want to get into this UCF game. We've been talking about this game for 3 weeks on this show. We started the first
episode.
The first episode, we were like, UCF coming to town. Here it goes. Go ahead, Joe. Hit that drop for us. Get us into this UC talk. Matt, you're an NKU guy. Do you hate that chant as much as we Xavier fans do?
No.
Okay.
I would go to UC. I went to one football and basketball game from like when I was 8 until through high school. My dad would take me.
Oh, nice.
That's my team. UC's my team.
Well, that's disappointing.
Calm it down. I had to see
What do
Gino
you want
Gadoli
him to
play.
root for the Xavier football team?
That's a good point.
The one that lost to
for
Marshall?
sure.
Undefeated, baby.
Well, this week, and we've talked enough about the game, but what I want to talk about is UC's social media team coming out this week, putting out a tweet that set the world on fire, where they were like, thank you to everybody who pitched in and gave us ideas. Here's our rendering for the field against UCF. See you Friday night, nip at night. And it was, which, first of all, great hashtag.
I was going to say,
Nip at night.
Nip at night,
Nip at night
pretty
is a
solid.
fantastic hashtag. But it was an all-black field. One end zone was red that had the Cincinnati logo in it. One end zone was white that said Bearcats. There was like red on the sidelines. It looked fire. And I know you
No, I was not.
were not a fan.
It was too much.
You had thoughts. As a matter of fact, you put out on Twitter, I have thoughts. Tune into Cincinnati style.
Yeah, because I didn't like the idea that they were painting the entire field. I'm all about the blue turf, the red turf, or whatever, but painting an entire field and having all these, the skyline here, the eyes, like it was just too busy, and I don't know. I didn't like it how it looked. I went OWG with it. I won't lie. I just was like,
You did. You
give
really-
me my hash lines and green turf.
What do you feel about basketball courts that have that? Like
I don't like
Oregon's-
that.
You don't. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I do too.
I'm all
Well,
in.
no, okay, so
I'm all in.
what's funny
Crazy
though
designs
is one
are
of
where we need to be.
One of my favorite courts in the NBA that no longer exists was the old Houston Rockets. Was super busy. The '94 Rockets, where it had the rocket blasting off from the center court, and it was like the entire court, and it looked ridiculous. But I like that court. But for the most part, I'm not a big super design on the court fan. I don't like it busy. I just
Didn't
want.
Joel Osteen keep that rocket? Super church, blast off to Jesus, right? I think he did.
He kept poor people out of it. That's for sure.
It's my rocket.
Yeah. If he has it, nobody's allowed in it but him, especially in emergency situations.
Hurricane's coming. Close the doors.
We out. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't like how busy it looks, and it seems kind of gimmicky, and I don't know. I'm not
love
a huge fan.
gimmicky. I'm such a fan of gimmicky.
Like, okay, so
especially when it comes to
here's
a
the thing, though.
Friday night college
If-
football game.
if there-
Give me all the
If
gimmicks.
the turf was black all the time, like if that was the color of the turf and it wasn't just painted for a once-off thing, I'd be like, yeah, I'm all in for this. But it looks weird with the green surrounding it and then just this black field. It looks odd.
Well, luckily for you,
Yes.
and unfortunately for everybody on Twitter who got really excited, it was all just a joke. UC's social media team just put it out as like a fun thing to do. It worked.
Did somebody tell him April Fool's Day was months ago?
I mean, the field doesn't even meet NCAA stand. Like, it says that things have to be like 4 inches wide and white and blah blah blah.
White is the key thing there for the NCAA. This field's too black. You got to change this field. We don't like black. What?
We're touching on some things right now. It's pretty good.
It's
Look at
good.
this.
This
We got
is a
Joel
very-
Osteen. We're going after everybody.
This is a craft brewed sports Cincinnati style that might not see the light of day.
Might be Howard Stern style. That's what we're doing over here.
Welcome to Craft Brewed Sports Cincinnati style After Dark. Here we go.
Bum, bum, bum.
It is fake, but I loved. There was a dude on Twitter who his first comment on the tweet was, "Boy, it's gonna be hot. I'm gonna pray for those guys." And, like, that was his big takeaway, and we had to chime in from our Twitter account to say, "Hey, man, first of all, it's a high of 70 and a low of 47. I think they'll be good." And he's like, "Field turf can be 70 degrees hotter than the air. It's gonna be hot, especially with being black." And it's like, dude, it's a night game. What the hell are you talking about?
70. That's
That I don't know where you got that number
I
from.
ran on hot tracks. I'm a bit of an athlete. 70. I think Matt's a little off on this one.
It seemed a little excessive, but it doesn't matter anyways. It's going to be the regular field. Maybe they'll wear black jerseys, I guess.
I would imagine that they would.
It's got to be. It's going to be like nip at night. Yeah, it's going to be blackout.
A blackout. Yeah.
Everybody wear black.
That sounds like a secret alcoholic. Taking this tonight. I gotta brush my teeth again.
That's nip in the morning. It's nip in the afternoon. Nip at any time.
When you got hooch hiding in the kitchen, right? It's nip at any time. Well, final predictions on this game. UCF coming in number 18 in the country. This is our Scout Team Radio bet. I'm throwing it out there. I'm going to bet against them for this one. They want me to drink like Orange Boone's
What's
Farm.
the spread in this game?
UCF has got to be favored by.
Because I almost
thought it
was
was
going to
4.
put this for the
4. That's
I
it.
thought it was UCF 4.
Yeah, I
Really?
almost put this on the dartboard of doom, but then I didn't know what the spread was, and so it's 4.
4 point spread. That's
I'm
surprising.
degenerate. I know
You
that's
are.
why.
I like it. I like it, man. You fit
You know what?
right in.
I'm gonna give this one to UC on this one. Like,
You got the upset coming.
yeah, even covering the spread. I'm saying they're
Covering the spread. Whew.
I want them to, but I think Pitt woke them up. I don't.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
I'm worried that Pitt game shook UCF quite a bit. Although maybe it's the other way where they're like, well, we can't get in the playoffs now, so screw it. There's no chance at the playoffs.
Maybe the whole team should redshirt and just wait for next year.
Not a bad idea. Although Brandon Wimbush is on the team and can't redshirt, but everybody else can.
Well, this was a wash. We're done. We'll see you next year.
All right. Well, good luck for the rest of the way, freshmen. We'll come back in and get our starting jobs back next year.
That would actually be hilarious. I'd be on board with that if whole teams did it. Where it's like, well, we lost earlier than we expected, like Michigan when they lost to Appalachian State. All right, well, we're all redshirting. This year's a wash. See you next year.
Man, now I kind of want UCF to do that. I want them all to.
I know.
want them all
I'm
to
totally
redshirt.
on board for that.
You mean tomorrow?
Yeah, like overnight
UC
tonight.
wins.
Like they're like, we're not getting on this plane.
Well,
We've
first-
all redshirted right
First,
now.
let us go lock in the 4 points, and then let
You
them
better believe it.
We got to go place all the bets.
I don't feel good about it. We'll see how it turns out.
I
don't
feel better
good
about it being just a 4 point spread. I would have
I'm
thought
surprised
that
by
was
that
more
line.
than
That's
that.
a
Yeah.
shocking line for me.
I think that Pitt game influenced that line.
probably. Probably.
Like if UCF was coming in undefeated, I feel like it would be more.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Oh, there you go. Okay, so there was the Pitt game, but then UCF bounced back and beat Connecticut 56-21, and that's that manufactured rivalry that they created between UCF and Connecticut, the conflict trophy.
What?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I haven't heard of this one.
Yeah, they made it up. It's like a BS thing. There's like a trophy, and it's conflict, and the CON is capitalized, and then the FL is capitalized for Connecticut and Florida.
Wow.
It's terrible.
I've heard of some made-up rivalries before, but
It's
yeesh.
super. I think it actually might be the FL and then the CT that are capitalized. Anyway, it's stupid. It doesn't matter what's capitalized because it's a dumb rivalry and nobody believes it's a real thing. But UCF leads the series in that one.
leads the series.
1-0.
But I'm looking forward to making Scout Team Radio. We got to come up with a bet, make them do something stupid if UC wins this game. Deal?
If they do what now?
If UC wins this game, Scout Team Radio's got to do something stupid. We just got to figure out what it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm on board with that.
We got to figure that out really quick. All right. Anyway,
Okay.
this has been a really fun show. And Matt is, for those of you that may have missed the regular show this week, Matt is going to be performing
And
Saturday
shame
night.
on you if you did. Go back and listen to
Oh,
that.
it's great. I was there most of the time.
Matt's going to be performing Saturday night at Task Brewporium here in Cincinnati. $10 tickets. You and a whole bunch of funny people that are going
Yeah,
to be on the
it's
lineup.
a great show. And if you buy $10 tickets, you get a wristband type thing, and you get $2 off every beer for the rest of the night. So.
And Taps has some good brews too. Get that
Was
gavel
it-
banger all
I was
night
just
long.
gonna say, I was like, it's $2 off any beer that
Any beer.
don't restrict it. Oh, that's good.
5
Gavel.
beers, free show.
There you go.
Well, Matt, thanks for hanging out, man. It was a good time having you on
thanks
the
for
show.
having me, man.
Thank you for picking me up after that terrible game against Pittsburgh. I needed this. I needed the laughter.
The worst.
Because if you weren't here, it was just going to be me pouting and Scott being like, Yeah, they're terrible. It's not going to be good for you the rest of the year. So thank you for making me smile.
You're welcome.
Anything you want to promo? How can people get in contact with you? Find out when you're coming to their town.
Well, my website, mattstantoncomedy.com. I just booked a show in Chicago in December. I'm in San Diego, so just go to mattstantoncomedy.com. Find out.
Nice. And seriously, go check out Matt every chance you get. Anytime he's in Cincinnati, come out to a show because it's hilarious. Keep
Thanks
up
for
with
joining us, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It was awesome.
Thanks for having me. It's fun.
Time.
Thumbs up everywhere.
Thank you guys for tuning in. You can keep up with us in between shows. You can follow the show at Craft Bee Sports. Follow me at Mike Burlon. Follow Joe at Joe Goalie 4. Follow Scott at ScottyK_Jr. If you guys got any hot takes to deliver, hit up the drunk line 440-37-DRUNK. Leave us a voicemail, send us a text, whatever. We got you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Cheers, everybody.
Peace. We out.